Make Rich Real to him was creating a legacy and passing an asset on, which would be his business, that can sustain itself for multiple generations.
You know, a lot of people talk about how money can bring happiness, and we know that people who buy things with money doesn't create happiness, but people who buy experiences with people they love and care about, that does.
Perhaps you want to make suboptimal financial decisions because you're prioritizing or optimizing for a different outcome. Jim, welcome back.
Welcome.
Our book club continues.
I like it.
This is our second edition.
I know.
We're on fire.
These are short but sweet.
You know, by the end of the book club, I've heard, again, talking back to speculations on book club, that the alcohol comes out and then you stop talking about the book and you just start drinking.
Yeah.
So maybe by the end of our book club experience, we may not even finish the book because we may just be drunk.
That could be true.
I'm excited to see where
there'll
this
be
takes
some
us.
insights. If we're drinking, which we're not right now, if we're drinking during these book clubs, I think it would change some of the information we put out there in the public.
Maybe it'll be better.
Maybe.
Well, this chapter, we're going to go into Make Rich Real, which is the foundation for every entrepreneur's fractional family office, the guiding light of what are we trying to achieve and why. And we kick off this chapter with a personal story from myself of as I was being raised, again, and we've talked about my dad being an entrepreneur, being a business owner. I remember vividly when I was in high school, that was the moment when we had the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, book club, I should say, as a family. And I think a lot of times as you listen to podcasts or you listen to a lot of people, oftentimes for whatever reason, that rich dad, poor dad, right, of making money on your money or off of others instead of your labor is like a big, profound moment. And then oftentimes that dovetails people into going into real estate. But here, the biggest learning...
I've got to spend time with Robert. We spoke on a big stage together. He's an interesting guy.
That's a diplomatic way to say it.
And we know his CPA. I've known his CPA for a long time.
Yeah, Tom Will right there. Yeah. So with this, as I reflect back, in terms of making Rich Real as part of my dad's goal and game plan, it was all about legacy. And so he, those conversations started at the dinner table where he wanted to educate my sisters and myself on, how business works, how the real world works, about making money for itself. We started buying stocks. And I remember one of the stocks I bought was Apple because they had the iPod at the time that just came out. And I thought it was the coolest thing. And I wanted an iPod. So I was like, I'm going to buy some Apple stock. Yeah. I got very lucky because Apple's been like one of the best performing companies. But that was one of my introductions into investing and my dad setting up money for us to invest and play around. But again, the big thing for him was just making sure that we were starting to build the education to be stewards of capital and eventually stewards of the business, because my dad did eventually transition his agriculture business to my three sisters and myself. And now when I look back at these days, 20 plus years ago, it's fun to see the reflection of like him having this 20-year roadmap. So all that to be said, Make Rich Real to him was creating a legacy and passing an asset on, which would be his business, that can sustain itself for multiple generations. And so for him, that was a 20-year plan that started at the dinner table with Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So
crazy,
kind of crazy to think about that. I love the intentionality that my dad had. And again, in the moment, I wasn't aware, but now as I reflect back, I can see how intentional a lot of these different things were. And now I can see what successful outcomes he created because of this. So encouraging entrepreneurs to be very intentional about what is Make Rich Real, but then also defining that. And so I want you to run through, when we're talking to different entrepreneurs or those that are listening, what are some of the variables that go into Make Rich Real so they can figure out, what is my guiding light? Like, what's this all for? What am I trying to do with my money and my wealth?
Very true. And I know for me and Mimi, when we talk about Making Rich Real, as you know, we think about the scholarships that we do each year for at-risk kids. And we believe our mission, inspired by God for the rest of our life, is to end generational poverty one scholarship at a time. When I look at this chart that's in your book, if you have a book, Make Rich Real means different things to different people. So it could be something like that, charitable intent, things you do for others. It could be time off and life experiences, time with your family, key relationships. It could be, a certain financial security number. It could be a lot of different things that work into what makes Rich Real for you. And if you have a book looking at this chart, Make Rich Real is in the middle. If you have a belief in God, intimacy with God probably is right in the middle of that and overwhelming all throughout this. So keep that in mind if you do have a faith of some sort. And then if you think about it, really, we're in the areas of purpose, values, impact, legacy, freedom, and meaning. And then within those, everything, as I mentioned, financial security, family legacy. Many entrepreneurs want their great-great-great-grandchildren to have opportunities because of them. Personal growth, growing, becoming better, emotionally evolving as a human. I mean, you should have seen me when I was 25. I'm a better version now, I would believe. Time freedom. That's big. I mean, the one currency we all have is time, and using that time in the way you want is really important. Charitable impact, as I mentioned, Mimi and I have a big piece in our heart for that. Your boys have not impressed me enough yet to cut them into the estate, but who knows? They're only 2. Life experiences. A lot of people talk about how money can bring happiness, and we know that people who buy things with money doesn't create happiness, but people who buy experiences with people they love and care about, that does change your life in a positive way. So those are some of the big areas that you want to think about of things that pull you forward. When you ask the question, why am I here? What's the purpose of my life? Those kinds of answers fall into that make rich real. And the more you spend some quiet time thinking about that, the more you can actually have the ingredients to have a fulfilling and purposeful life.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to define this, to create a compelling vision of what you're trying to do with your business, with your resources, with your time, with your energy. And a constant example we'll see is perhaps you want to make suboptimal financial decisions because you're prioritizing or optimizing for a different outcome. Mm-hmm. And complexity, for example, oftentimes on the other side of complexity could be a better financial outcome, but there's a trade-off there. And so I think just being aware of those, and if you're not clear on your compelling vision and what make rich real means to you, then you may just be stuck in the middle and have analysis paralysis. But if you can look and frame up all of the different strategies that you can do and all the different options at your disposal through one lens, that will allow you to make more congruent decisions on a recurring basis.
Yeah, that begs it's a perfect opportunity for my quote from Oliver Wendell Holmes. You've probably heard me do this one before. I wouldn't give a fig for simplicity on this side of complexity, but I would give my life for simplicity on the other side of complexity. You have to think about that one for a little bit. The way I think about it is when I was a teacher, if someone said, I'll make your life simpler, I was like, what are you talking about? My life's simple. I've got a rent payment, I've got a car payment, and that's it. Money comes in, money goes out, I save a little bit. My life is simple. However, fast forward, and when you start accumulating money and all the complications that come with that, then things get complex. And that's where, when you're in that part of your life, you wish you could have simplicity. And that's where that whole thing, you have to weigh that as you're growing and as you're making your plans to make rich real.
Yep. And so I think it's very critical. Find out what does make rich real mean for you before you move forward, because in the next chapter, we're going to go into why entrepreneurs need a fractional family office and why the existing solutions are failing them left and right. But before you even get there, it's really important that you need this compelling vision, understand what make rich real is, because otherwise all of the tactics and strategies and the things that we're about to jump into are just that. They're nothing that's meaningful to you.
I don't remember, did we put the entrepreneur's journey in here?
No.
Okay, maybe I'll mention it because it makes me think of this because sometimes when you start a business, you're just in survival mode.
Yep.
And some of this stuff sounds like pie in the sky, like, why do I worry about this? I'm just trying to survive. I would encourage you, even if you're in that stage, to still think about these things because it can actually direct your strategy and it can also help you fight through the days that you're trying to survive. And really, the 4 stages in the entrepreneurial journey are, first is the eager entrepreneur, excited, like 1999 when Mimi and I are starting the business, we're going to change the world. And then you realize it's really tough. And you move to the second stage if you're lucky, and that is the overwhelmed operator. You're making some money, but you're stressed. You have some employees. You have no time. You're working weekends. Hopefully you move beyond that to the secure shareholder. That's where you have a strong cash flow business, good profits, things are more established. And then ultimately, I would want everyone listening to us to move to the influential investor. And that's where you can kind of decide how to spend your time and spend your money and really create impact that can be lasting, whether it's for the world or your kids or whatever you choose that to be.
Yep. Love it. Beautifully said. All right. This is episode 2 of our book club. We made it. And we'll see you guys back next time when we're going to talk through why every entrepreneur needs a fractional family office.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening to the Make Rich Real podcast, where million-dollar businesses meet billionaire strategies. Please note the following disclosure. This podcast is provided by Dew Wealth Management, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Registration with the SEC does not imply a certain level of skill or training. The information presented in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be construed as personalized investment advice, tax advice, or legal advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Nothing discussed in this podcast constitutes a solicitation or offer to provide investment advisory services to any person in any jurisdiction where such solicitation or offer would be unlawful under the securities law of such jurisdiction. All information presented is believed to be reliable, but is not guaranteed for accuracy or completeness. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance, if mentioned, is not indicative of future results, and no investment strategy can guarantee profit or loss. Any mention of specific securities, investment strategies, or market performance is for illustrative purposes only and should not be considered a recommendation. Economic and market conditions are subject to change, and any opinions expressed are currently only as of the date of this recording. Before making any investment decisions, please consult with a qualified financial professional who can assess your individual circumstances, risk tolerance, and investment objectives. For more information about our services and fees, please refer to our ADV Part 2A, which is available at our website, dewwealth.com, or upon request.